So let's move on to the next question, guys. In this question, we are given that there is a list which contains even number of integers, which means that the integer is not even, but the number of integers that is even. For example, 4. So there are total 4 numbers in the list, or there are 6 numbers in the list, that ways, right? And the product of the greatest and the smallest integer is positive. The product of the greatest integer in the list and the smallest integer in the list, that product is positive. So we know this. So we have to find the product of all integers, and we have to tell whether it's positive or negative or prime or greater than 100 or greater than 1000. So we have to tell this, right? So let's suppose we know that there are even number of integers. There can be 4 integers in the list, 6 integers, 10 integers, 8, 100 integers, whatever, but even, right? So let's assume that there are 6 integers, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So we have assumed that the total number of integers in the list is 6, which is even. So absolutely fine. So this condition is satisfied, right? Now, let's suppose that this is an ascending order, right? Which means this is the smallest and this is the greatest, right? If this list is in ascending order, that means this is the smallest and this is the greatest. Okay. So, okay. And we also know that the product of the smallest and the greatest is positive, which means that if we multiply this and if we multiply this, right? Okay, firstly, this is ascending order, right? This is ascending order, right? Right. Now, if we multiply this and this, for example, if this is maybe x, right? And if this is y, let's assume this is x and this is y, right? So if we multiply x and y, the greatest and the smallest, we get positive. So xy is positive. We know this, right? This is given in the question. Now tell me one thing, when is this possible? This is possible in 2 cases, right? Which is x comma y both are positive, or x comma y both are negative. I hope this should be clear. What does this mean? This means that if x is a positive number, then y has to be a positive number. That is why their product is positive. If x is positive, y is negative, and if we multiply, then the product will be negative, right? But we know that the product is positive. So either both x and y are positive, so positive into positive is positive, or both of them are negative, because negative into negative becomes positive, right? So this is one thing which should be clear. Now, if we know that x and y are both positive or x and y are both negative, right? And x and y are the smallest and the greatest integers in the entire list, right? So tell me one thing, for example, if both are positive, let's assume x is equals to 1 and y is equals to 6, right? So both are positive, absolutely fine. So this is the smallest, this is the greatest. So what can be the numbers in between? Obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the list, right? Because all the numbers will be in between this and this, because this is the smallest, this is the greatest. So all the remaining numbers will be between these numbers, right? More importantly, what does that mean? So if all the remaining numbers will be in between these numbers, right? That means all of the remaining numbers will also be positive. So that means the remaining number will be positive, right? Because if the smallest number is positive and if the greatest number is positive and all the remaining numbers are between these, so obviously they will be positive, right? So if we multiply all of them, so positive into positive into positive into positive into positive into positive, so obviously the final answer will be positive, right? So if we multiply all of the numbers in the list, the result will be positive. So this is for this case, right? Now let's suppose x and y both are negative. For example, x is equals to minus 10 and y is equals to minus 5, for example, right? We know x is the smallest, so minus 10, minus 9, minus 8, minus 7, minus 6, minus 5, right? And minus 5 is the greatest. So what is the list? The list becomes minus 10, minus 9, minus 8, minus 10, comma, minus 9, comma, minus 8, comma, minus 7, comma, minus 6, comma, minus 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 numbers, right? So this number and this number both are negative, right? So obviously all the remaining numbers will also be negative because all the remaining numbers are between this and this, right? So they will also be negative. And we also know that there are even number of numbers. So there can be 6, 8, 10, 100, whatever. So if there are even number of numbers, so minus into minus positive, minus into minus positive, minus into minus positive, right? So positive into positive, this will also be positive. For example, if there were odd number of integers, maybe 7, then minus into minus into minus into minus into minus into minus will become negative. Why? Because if you do minus into minus into minus into minus into minus into minus into minus 1 2 3 4 5 6 into minus, so minus minus becomes positive, minus minus becomes positive, minus minus becomes positive, positive into positive into positive becomes positive, into negative, that becomes negative. But since we know that there are even number of integers, so negative into negative into negative will always be positive. So in both of these cases the answer comes out to be positive. So your final answer is the first one. I hope this should be clear. There should not be any doubt in this.